And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. It's Dr. Hour here at the summit today. So we're very excited to introduce Dr. Adam Harrison. And Dr. Harrison is a physician, lawyer, and leadership coach who, as a result of his personal experiences, specializes in confidence and mindset coaching for physicians and other professionals who have been on the receiving end of workplace bullying. So as a former medical director, he works with medical leaders on developing kind leadership cultures based on compassionate servant and inclusive leadership model paradigms. And also, in his own words, most importantly, though, he is a husband to an incredible female surgeon and the father to two amazing girls who changed his career trajectory and helped him work better towards achieving that often elusive work-life balance. So what a great way to end that intro on International Women's Day. So with that, Dr. Harrison, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Thanks so much, Rob. Really appreciate that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Excellent. Let me just try and bear with me a second. Sorry about this. Just trying to get my presentation up. Okay. Should be good to go now. Sorry about this. I don't know why. Okay. Try again. Here we go. Oh. So sorry about that. Okay, thank you so much again, and welcome to my talk, which is entitled "The Effect of Workplace Bullying on Employees' Wellbeing and Wellness." And before I start, I just would like to say Happy International Women's Day 2022 to all women and their male allies. I'm a very strong male ally myself. I'm blessed with so many amazing female role models in my life, including my wife, who, as Robert said, is she's a surgeon. My mom, my two young daughters, my two sisters, my many amazing female friends, the many inspiring female leaders I've had the honor of working with over the years, the many talented female colleagues that I've worked with, etc. And I think given that female workplace bullying is so prevalent, this talk is actually very timely on this auspicious day. So a few aims and objectives for the talk. I'm just going to go through a few definitions of the key terms in the title, so workplace bullying, well-being and wellness. Talk about the prevalence of workplace bullying, what the different types of workplace bullying are, and some nomenclature, because some people know it by other names rather than bullying, what the psychological and physical impacts of workplace bullying are on the people who are experiencing it, and how the targets and survivors of workplace bullying can restore and reinforce their well-being and wellness after experiencing it. So firstly, some definitions then. So workplace bullying itself, doctors Ruth and Gary Namey, who co-founded the Workplace Bullying Institute in the States, defined workplace bullying in a way that I really like. They say it's repeated health-harming mistreatment by one or more employees of an employer to another employee, including but not limited to abusive conduct that's either verbal abuse, behaviors which are threatening, intimidating or humiliating, or work sabotage in some combination. And I should just say that in general terms, in the UK at least, bullying is not a crime, it's not illegal. Harassment is, I'll come back to that, but bullying has to be repeated conduct, it has to be intentional, there has to be an intention to harm, and it has to be unwanted by the recipient to be classed as bullying. So just moving on to wellbeing, according to the UK's Department of Health, wellbeing comprises an individual's experience of their life and really their comparison of their life circumstances with what are deemed to be social norms and values. It's a very passive concept compared with wellness. We talk about, being in a state of well-being. And there are two dimensions to it, really. There's, as I've alluded to, the subjective well-being, which is where you ask people directly how they think and feel about their own well-being. And then there's objective well-being, which is based on assumptions about basic human needs and rights, including aspects such as adequate food, physical health, education, safety, etc. And then finally, moving on to wellness. And the reason I've kind of gone into these is because well-being and wellness are often, there's overlaps between the two. They're often sort of misunderstood terms, certainly by me. And, it's quite good to sort of clarify. The Global Wellness Institute defines wellness as the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health. It's not a passive state, unlike well-being. So wellness is about more than just physical health then. In fact, most models of wellness include at least 6 dimensions to wellness, and sometimes as many as 9 or 12. For example, physical wellness, mental wellness, emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, social wellness, and environmental wellness. So just moving on to the prevalence of workplace bullying, and just concentrating on the states here because time is limited. So the Workplace Bullying Institute undertook a survey last year, the so-called Workplace Bullying Survey, and results showed that in 2021, 30% of workers were bullied, which had gone up from 19% 4 years before that. And in addition to the 30% on the receiving end of the bullying, an additional 19% were witnesses to the bullying. So that's an estimated 48.6 million Americans bullied at work, almost 50 million Americans bullied at work. But 49% of the entire American workforce at the time of the survey in 2021 were affected by bullying because 19% witnessed it. And so there will be effects on those that kind of, the witness, the bystander, the sort of distraction and so on that they will face in their day and their work, having witnessed something awful happen to a colleague. And so that equates to over 76 million workers in the States in 2021 being affected by workplace bullying. And there's a 67% chance of losing your job when targeted for bullying, so a 2/3 chance of losing your job. And managers themselves, who are often looked as the perpetrators of bullying, 40% of managers themselves are among those who were bullied. And remote workers were bullied at a higher rate than others, and that's very kind of appropriate at the time because of the pandemic, a lot more people working from home, etc. And 43% of remote workers reported workplace bullying. And of that bullying they experienced, 50% of that was in meetings, so virtual meetings, and 9% was through emails. And I should just say it was a decent sized survey. Over 1,200 workers were surveyed to come up with these results. And I just thought, given it's International Women's Day, I'd just break it down into the prevalence of workplace bullying by gender as well. I'm not going to go into all of the other the categories by ethnicity and disability and so on, but because it's International Women's Day, I thought I would do this. And the 2021 survey results showed that of all the workplace bullies, 2/3 of them are men and 1/3 of them are women, and that male bullies target women 42% of the time. So essentially 4 out of every 10 people that are bullied by men at work are women. And interestingly, female bullies target fellow female colleagues 65% of the time. So 2/3 of the time, again, 2 out of 3 of every victim of bullying by a woman is a fellow woman in the workplace. And same gender bullying accounts for 61% of all bullying. And I thought an infographic on this would be quite stark to see. So there on the left, you've got male bullies who are 2/3 of all bullies, and you can see, sort of almost 6 of 10 people that they bully at work are men, and 4 out of 10 are women. But on the female side, although there are less female bullies, they bully more women than they do men. So, sorry, this is quite a busy slide, but I just wanted to make you aware of the different types of workplace bullying, and starting with the general types of workplace bullying. So firstly, there's that kind of classic stereotypical violent kind of bullying, the schoolyard bullying, the boss kind of getting physically aggressive with you. So verbal or physical aggression, hostility, shouting at you, making threats, intimidating you, shaking their fists, pointing their fingers, wagging it in your face, and that kind of thing. Then there are people who are kind of prone to uncontrolled bursts of anger or tantrums. The people who are sadly criticized in public in front of their colleagues, shamed in public, berated in front of other people, being discriminated against, usually on the grounds of a protected characteristic, like gender, ethnicity, sexuality, disability, religion, belief. Being ostracized, so being cast out of a group, very similar to social isolation, a bit lower down, silent treatment. Being excluded, gossiping or spreading rumors about people, being on the receiving end of that, being sexually harassed, personal attacks about a person's private life and all their personal attributes. So, size of their nose, their weight, their skin color, their clothing, whatever personal attributes. Passive aggression or extreme sarcasm. I know people don't often think of sarcasm as a form of bullying, but in extreme cases, it's very, very similar to passive aggression. And then offensive jokes, these kind of old-fashioned jokes that our parents' generation were just the norm then. But again, usually with respect to gender, ethnicity, sexuality, disability, and religion. And then just continuing with different types of workplace bullying, but specifically relating to the work that you do and the processes and so on at work. And usually these are things that are, leveled at you by your line manager or a leader in the organization. So being excessively criticized, unjustly criticized without justification, information being withheld that will enable you to do your job properly, which then obviously, leaves you wide open to being criticized because you haven't done your job properly, but, your boss didn't give you all that you needed to do it. Withholding job responsibilities is quite common in medicine, in surgery. I don't like that person, so I'm not going to let them operate with me. And then they don't get trained and they don't get practice at doing things. Over monitoring of work, constantly breathing down your neck, and kind of keeping. I've had this where I've had dossiers of things kept on me, like a record of 15 trivial misdemeanor type things, and then they present you at an intimidating meeting and go through all of them, rather than just kind of picking you up on little things as you go along and just saying, oh, you may want to do that differently next time. No big deal, but let's just change that. No, they kind of gather a load of evidence and create a file on you. It's just deeply unpleasant and upsetting. Withholding positives, again, I'm sorry to keep going on about medicine, but so common in medicine. I have to say that talking to my fellow physicians as clients, of all feedback, I'd say 99% of feedback is negative from fellow doctors, and very, very occasionally you get a bit of praise, very occasionally. And then there's the managers who set you unrealistic goals, so you can't achieve the work, and again you can get into trouble, or they can put you through a performance management type process because you haven't achieved what they've asked you to achieve, you haven't hit their deadlines, you can't keep up with the workload, etc. And then just because, as I said earlier, not everyone uses the term bullying, and people think of it more as what's going on in the schoolyard. People might think of it in terms of workplace aggression, victimization, sorry about the English spelling there. Mobbing, which is where, you've got a ringleader and then they kind of enlist a group of people to persecute an individual. Horizontal or lateral violence, harassment or discrimination. Again, these are on the grounds of protected characteristics. Moral harassment, psychological aggression, psychological violence, social undermining, and obviously the kind of a classic violence or assault might be another term used for it. So what are the psychological and physical impacts of workplace bullying on its recipients? So the psychological effects are what you would think: stress, anxiety, burnout, depression, plus or minus suicide, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And according to a 2013 survey conducted by the Workplace Bullying Institute entitled "The Toll of Workplace Bullying on Employee Health," 49%, so practically half of the 516 people surveyed who responded positively about having been bullied, had been diagnosed with depression. So, over 250, getting on for 260 of the 516 had been diagnosed with depression. And some of these may actually have been unwell enough to require counselling, cognitive behavioural therapy, psychotherapy, medications from a family doctor, or even specialist psychiatric treatment. And just carrying on with the impacts on the health of recipients, the physical health side of things now. So in that same employee health survey, 71% of the respondents reported having been treated by a doctor for work-related physical health symptoms. And so when I say work-related, it's not something that was a sort of pre-existing condition. It was very much as a physical manifestation and reaction to the bullying they'd experienced at work. And of the top physical health related conditions, many reported high blood pressure, heart palpitations, ischemic heart disease, so heart attacks and angina, irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, migraines, tension headaches, disturbances in sleep, loss of concentration, loss of memory. So really some really unpleasant conditions as a result of the bullying there at work. So what steps can you take to restore your personal well-being or wellness if you're on the receiving end of workplace bullying by a colleague? Well, I kind of break this down into two main areas. Firstly, I think it's really important to develop a bedrock of well-being and wellness, so essentially self-care. And then on top of that, you have a foundation of more advanced skills. So a bedrock of well-being and wellness, and which you can build more advanced skills. And you need to learn these skills. You need to practice them to develop them. And by that, I mean working on the coachable consequences of workplace bullying. So what I call the coachable consequences, such as stress management, confidence building, increasing assertiveness, conflict management, etc. So firstly, I'm just going to talk about well-being, and the National Health Service in the UK has this model called the 5 Ways to Wellbeing, which, as you can see from this infographic, is connect, keep learning, be active, give, and take notice. And just going into that in a little bit more detail. So the connectedness is just so important. Social interactions, be that face to face. Now we're allowed to do so, but by telephone, by video call, by email, by letter, whatever, by text, however you can to connect. But if we're hit by a pandemic again, then make sure you kind of stay in touch with people by phone and electronically. Activity, so the kind of minimum of 30 minutes of kind of walking a day or something like that, but plus or minus whatever other sorts of exercise you partake in. What's your preferred type of exercise? Mindfulness, that's the taking notice bubble there. So yeah, so that can always be tied into when you're doing your activity. If you're going out for a walk and you're walking in the park or in the countryside, even in the suburbs or the city, you see things like trees and plants and flowers and animals, and you just take a moment and you immerse yourself in that moment to the neglect of everything else. You just lose yourself in that moment, focus on that moment, think about nothing else other than what's in front of you. Essentially, look at the beauty of the flowers. Kind of listen to the sound of the birds chirping and tweeting and so on, and just literally be present in that moment. And it's similar with things like with your children, being present in the moment with your children, for example. Not being glued to your screen, and not taking notice of them, but do take notice of them. Giving is a lot of people think that's kind of giving money to charity and so on, but it's giving money, it's giving goods, things that you no longer need, taking them to charity shops, giving of your time, volunteering, helping, going to a nursing home and helping out there, talking to the people, the residents there, or volunteering in soup kitchens or whatever it is you want to do. But that's all part of giving, and that's shown to be very, very good for well-being. And then learning, it says keep learning, and that's really learning for the sake of learning, for yourself, for your own enrichment and nourishment, not learning to pass an exam. Essentially, I have some other things I like to add to the 5 ways to well-being. So other ways to increase well-being: sleeping well, eating healthily, not kind of snacking, avoiding high sugar, high fat, high salt foods and so on, limiting social media time, limiting screen time, living by your core values. And this is a whole talk in itself, but basically being guided by your moral compass, and living in alignment with what your values are, and living with integrity and as I say, morals and ethics, and not being distracted by negative things in that way. And in the workplace, that can be difficult if your employer, the organization's values are not in alignment with your own. That can lead to disharmony and discord within yourself. If your organization's values seem like they are in alignment with yours, but your employer is not living by those values, which is very, very common. There's a lot of lip service, a lot of social responsibility. We'll put these values out on our website, but actually we're not living by those values as an organization. Breathing exercises, really, really important. There are whole coaches who do breathing work. It's good for general calm, general peace, anxiety reduction. But from a purely health point of view, how many of us actually intentionally a few times a day sit down and do some deep breathing and open up those tiny little airways that we don't normally open unless we're doing exercise? They get clogged up with a bit of mucus, and then that's a risk factor for getting infections and so on. So it's always good to just 4 times a day do some deep breathing exercises. And meditation, especially loving kindness meditation, is really, really effective. It's shown to increase the ability to better manage conflict. So people who meditate, who are meditation practitioners, are better able to manage conflict, to improve emotional processing, to increase empathy, and to boost positivity and reduce negativity. So lots of all the good things there with meditation.
Yeah, these are wonderful pieces of advice, and I love the idea of just walking around and taking in nature. I think so often we have our headphones in, we're not taking in what's around us. Yeah. Before we run out of time, Dr. Harrison, I did have a couple of questions from the audience, and two people were asking similar questions. I'd love to put this out to you. One person was saying, what can we do if we witness bullying? What are ways in which we can help the victim? And someone was asking also, as a lawyer, can you speak to how someone would want to record bullying if you see it, or even if you are the target? So kind of two ways to ask the same question.
Yeah, no, sure. I sort of deliberately not gone into that in detail, because that is a massive talk in itself. I did want to just talk about a few other things before my time runs out, but I think it's most important, just to actually be there for someone, actually to listen to them, just to let them kind of, get it off their chest, and just kind of, I think be a sense check for them as well. I often advise, like, is it actually bullying, or is it in the perception? You've gone to work and you've had some stuff going on at home, and you're in a particularly sensitive mood. Your boss has come to work and they've had some stuff going on at home and they're in a particularly angry mood, and it's just an unfortunate kind of alignment of these two, sets of feelings, and it feels like bullying. But the key thing is then, is that unusual? Is it sorry, I'm just distracted by something on the screen there. Is it a one-off? It's not a regular repeated occurrence. Normally you get on well with your manager or something like that. So having someone listen to you, actively listen to you, and give you a bit of a sense check. And then if just really for you to be an empath, really, and to give them that time, and try and have a coffee with them, and or meet them outside of work, and let them just be a kindly friend, essentially, and then give them a bit of advice or perspective, or signpost them to something. In terms of the legal things, it's I think it's a bit much to kind of to go into. What do you think? Is it okay for me to just whiz through the rest of my?
Yeah, please. Take a couple of moments to wrap up, and then we want to make sure everyone knows where to find you afterwards.
Yeah, thank you. I can always do another talk for you on the legal side, but I'll whiz through this. So the dimensions of wellness, we talked about the ways to well-being. This 6-dimension model: physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, social, and environmental wellness. And I'm not going to read through all of that because we're running out of time, but a lot of overlap with well-being. But the key thing with wellness is it's active practicing of these things to achieve a sort of holistic health benefits, essentially. And the more advanced skills are working on what I've called before the coachable consequences of workplace bullying. And by that, I mean, you can either coach yourself, or you can instruct a coach and work with a coach to help you with stress, low self-confidence and self-esteem, imposter syndrome, low levels of assertiveness, and conflict aversion. But the first most important thing I have to say to people is, it's not your fault. You're not alone, and you have no reason to feel ashamed. And that, for me, is a really powerful kind of mantra affirmation for you to really kind of think about and concentrate on. And it's helped me, for sure. We know you're not alone. I've just told you some statistics that say, 3 out of 10 of every adult worker in the US is experiencing workplace bullying. So for every 10 of your colleagues that you're working with, there's another 2 somewhere that's going through what you're going through. And hope you can find some sort of comfort in that. Just very quickly, how to manage acute stress, how to calm yourself down in these very acutely stressful situations, what to do during or immediately after that kind of bullying interaction. Hold your ground, feel the ground under your feet, feel your feet on the floor, center yourself by concentrating on your heartbeat or your navel. It's essentially a sort of a distraction away from the stress. You're concentrating on something else to kind of take you away from that awful feeling. Do some box breathing, which is, kind of breathing through your nose for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold it for 4 seconds, and kind of do that sort of square 4 seconds square sides. And this will help, you not go into that fight or flight mode, essentially, which is the thing that makes you feel acutely stressed. There are lots of ways to improve your self-esteem, self-confidence, and resolve imposter syndrome. There's mindset work and positive psychology techniques. I think if I were going to choose a couple from that, given the time, just become aware of your inner critic. We have upwards of 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of which are purported to be negative. So we're constantly being told we can't do stuff. Who do we think we are? Why are we doing this, etc.? That's your negative mind chatter. Try and concentrate on that and push that away. It leads to limiting beliefs. Change your story, control your own narrative. Ask yourself, is this thought serving me? If not, push that thought away. Some positive psychology techniques: celebrate your wins. 3 things each day that went well. They don't have to be huge things. They can be as simple as someone made me a cup of tea and I managed to drink it while it was still warm, or I managed to go to the bathroom today while I was at work. Just really, really simple things, but they can be great things, of course. And similarly, practicing gratitude is shown to really help your health, help your physical and mental health. It reduces inflammation in your body over time, so reduces the risk of cancer and cardiovascular diseases. So write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for, which might well overlap with what went well, those things in that. Basically, how to improve assertiveness and better handle conflict. Again, this is far outside the remit of a brief talk, but coaches can help their clients achieve goals relating to confidence and assertiveness and enable them to become more persuasive and influential and not fear conflict, because conflict is actually a good thing, believe it or not, when done in a kind of safe, controlled environment. Sorry, I know time is going. So we've been through a few definitions, the prevalence of workplace bullying. We discussed the different types and names for workplace bullying, the health implications of workplace bullying on people on the receiving end, and how the targets of survivors can actually improve their well-being and wellness after workplace bullying. And then my contact details.
Wonderful. Yeah. So definitely encourage everyone to find you. Your website's there as well. And we'll share your information in our post-event blog post, which everyone listening will receive next week. And, as you said, we could go spend a whole nother talk or 2 on these. So we'll definitely have to have you back, Dr. Harrison. But thank you so much for being here today. This was really great. And I just love the idea that, like what you said, and also our previous speaker said, wellness can be easy, but it is active. You do have to take that extra step to do it, which is it's a great thing to keep in mind.
I'm glad I'm in agreement with Dr. Tamara, because she's brilliant.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you.
Happy International Women's Day to everyone again.
Yay. Yes, totally. Well, thank you, Dr. Harrison. That was wonderful. So much great information there. As you said, it's great to see that we are not alone. So thank you.